Welcome to Coinomi X Space. Today, we're excited to bring you a special AMA with FIRO, diving deep into crypto. This conversation was recorded live on X Spaces on March 29, 2025. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this AMA are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the official stance of Coinomi Wallet. This content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We encourage you to conduct your own research before making any decisions. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe and like the video to support our channel. Now, let's get started. Enjoy.
Okay, I think we are running a little behind. Oh no, it's actually only 1 minute past 9, so I guess we are right on time. Coinomi is coming. Okay, great. So yeah, I guess while we wait for Coinomi, I guess it'll be great to introduce everyone. We have a privacy roundtable with PIVX, Basic Swap, and Particle, and it's basically a combination of projects that love privacy, and we take turns to basically host X Spaces or Twitter Spaces, however you want to call it, and we talk about things from anything that's relating to privacy or what's happening in the crypto space. We're pretty relaxed and chill. None of this is nothing is kind of scripted or anything. We just have like a rough topic. So today, we wanted to cover, of course, we want to talk a bit about Coinomi wallet, which has been, I think, one of the earliest wallets that I use as a multi-coin wallet. They haven't been as popular, I guess since like MetaMask and all this come up, but they are still an active player. And I hold very kind of fond memories of using them back, when I was just starting in crypto. So yeah, they've really been around. Coinomi is in. And yeah, I guess I will, I'm from FIRO. I'm the project steward. I basically, guide the development of the project. And we obviously are a privacy project, but I'll let the rest, maybe let's have Dr. Cap introduce himself and the projects that he represents, and he wears two hats. Yeah.
Thanks, Ruben. Hi, I'm Dr. Cap, IRL Dr. Kapil Amrasinghe. I am an advisor to the Particle project, which is a privacy project that develops privacy-focused decentralized applications. The two major ones that we've published are the Particle Marketplace, a fully decentralized peer-to-peer privacy-focused marketplace where anyone can be buyer and seller, but there's no need to give out any personal information and there's no third-party tracking of any kind. And perhaps the one that's been a bit more prominent within the privacy circles is Basic Swap DEX, which is a fully decentralized distributed order book DEX. Again, operates on a peer-to-peer network. I think it's probably I'm not sure if this is start to date, but it's probably the only DEX that I know of that supports bidirectional Monero atomic swaps and can support atomic swaps for coins that lack programmable outputs. So effectively, we have an atomic swap DEX that supports privacy coins of all shapes and forms. And actually, we're looking to bring that to mobile platforms soon without any trade-offs in decentralization or privacy. So yeah, I'll hand this over to Yenachar from PIVX.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Cap. Yes, I'm Yenachar. I'm part of the PIVX community. PIVX is a masternode proof-of-stake coin. It's fast and it uses Zcash technology, so the anonymity set is large. And yeah, happy to be here.
Great, and let's have Coinomi. Who is speaking from Coinomi? And
Hi,
it's a real
folks.
pleasure.
My name is Kobe. My name is Kobe, and I'm one of the members of the team since around 2016. Really excited to talk more about privacy and how we've implemented a bunch of coins in the past few years and features. Now that we're back, you may have heard that we've been away for some time. That's absolutely true, but we're back. We're better than ever, and we're really excited to be developing again for an amazing community that's stuck with us. So very happy to be here.
Great. I mean, I was just introducing that Coinomi was actually one of the very few mobile wallets and the multi-coin wallets that were actually good and available when I first started in maybe like 2012 or 2013. So Glad to see you guys back. And I guess I'm wondering, like, you said you were away, and I was like quite interested to know why was like that the case and the history behind that.
Absolutely, and you're right. My wallet, the first one that I had, was also Coinomi back in 2014. So we're all many of our members of the team actually started as community members. We're just users of the product. We stepped away given some differences in the management of the company from around 2021 till 2023. A lot of us did different things. Some of us were scattered in the wind, but a few of us started a new company that we worked on all together. And then we were able to do kind of the movie montage of getting the band back together in the past year to find ourselves working again at Coinomi. So while I can't get into all the specifics, what matters is that we're headed back to some of the original core values that made Coinomi to begin with, like open source and always keeping privacy, security, anonymity above all else, and making an amazing product that instead of just locking up people's funds, helps them get the most out of their assets. So that's what we're here and back to do. And we appreciate that we have a lot of users in the PivX community that have been with us for almost a decade. So thanks everyone for sticking around. We have some great things coming down the pipeline.
Cool. And I guess, like, when do you guys kind of revive with that movie montage? Just like roughly, could you share when did like Coinomi revive?
Yeah, around the end of 2020, or sorry, the middle of 2024. So we've only really been back for maybe 6, 7 months, but we've been getting a lot of things done in the past few months, just recently in 2025. So it's been a little bit of a cold start, and you can't just add everything at once. But now, as you see, we've been reconnecting with our partners as we get ready to implement new tech and dust off a lot of our old projects and ideas that even other wallets and definitely other projects haven't gotten close to implementing the things we once dreamed about. So we think there's a lot of innovation still to put forward in the wallet space, especially focusing on privacy coins with our partners.
I'm
Cool.
just keen to kind of know. So I'd be grateful if you could just give an overview to those who are listening and may not be familiar with you. What does Coinomi currently do, and what does it plan to do?
Absolutely. Since 2014, we're one of the first in-field multi-currency wallets. That means you can keep your Bitcoin next to your Ethereum, next to your Monero, next to your PivX. And we have about 35 blockchains that used to be over 100. And we're getting back there actually just by the middle of the next month. We'll already be from 35 back to about 87 blockchains. And the month after, we'll probably be closer to 130 again. Not tokens, blockchains. We have thousands and thousands of tokens. Soon we'll have over 100 blockchain again as well. We're really excited that that's where we got started as a coin wallet, but we're very aware that wallets over the past years have evolved to much more than just a wallet. In the same way that you might open your leather wallet and find your house key or your office card, your identification, a discount coupon for Burger King. You've got a lot in there that's not just your finances, and that's what crypto has become as well. From different identification platforms to ZK rollup solutions for your healthcare data, these are the things we expect in the future. And while we're not going to call it Coinomi multi-tool does everything device, Coinomi wallet is really going to be much more of a Coinomi multi-tool. And we're all about making that easy and secure. Well, I guess we're all about making that easy and simple while never putting security or anonymity second or behind a closed door. So that's what we're really on the warpath to do.
I'm quite interested. I remember, I mean, like, I know you support a bunch of privacy coins, not all of them with their privacy features. But I remember someone from Coinomi was mentioning how you actually like protected privacy on certain layers, even when you're using Bitcoin. Obviously, it's not like on-chain privacy or something like that. But is there any sort, like, what is different about Coinomi from, let's say, any other multi-coin wallet? I believe there's some privacy features that you have. Yeah. You're muted.
Sorry, 1 second. My mic disconnected. Give me just 1 second, folks. Okay, there we go. So, I mean, I used to not have to say this, but one of the things we definitely don't do is take your email when you when you build in your account to Koinami. From the small things like that you don't need an email or phone number to get started at all or ever, to anonymizing IP addresses, and more. I mean, MetaMask, for example, it pings in FIRO by default that ties your IP to your wallet address. I'm not sure of their obfuscation, but we don't leak your IP address to Electrum server referral nodes that you're connected to. We route everything through our own through Tor anonymized networks. We also have native control for coin control. So we let users manage the UTXO directly, which makes sure that we prevent address reuse and linkability. So you can manually select inputs and avoid tainted addresses or be able to consolidate funds more carefully. A lot of coin wallets don't offer this a lot of mobile wallets don't offer this coin control, which really worsens privacy. We don't reuse addresses because we're HD, which means we're hierarchical deterministic. So if you are generating a new address every time you receive Bitcoin, that's really helping users as well, even though it's not a privacy secure chain. Even though this is industry standard now mostly, not all wallets implement this with good UI. Not all wallets from 2014 surely implement this at all. And without tracking our analytics on our users that we're selling to anyone, we're really making sure that even if you're using a chain that has no security features, you still have a level of protection from your wallet provider who's just making it easier for you to use your non-custodial wallet. So there's a few more things we're adding. I mean, there's actually quite a lot that we're adding, taking advantage of smart wallets, taking advantage of ZK rollups, as I mentioned, and just better UI, UX, and features overall for the entire wallet. But most of all, what we're excited to be implementing is things that take advantage of features from PIVX, from FIRO rather, and from other chains like Monero that we've been implementing and adding features to for some time now to get them back working in the app.
It's great
Well,
that you provide coin control. That's really important. I had a question. So, do you not actually see users' IP addresses, or do you like have a policy that you see them but you don't store them? How is the you mentioned Tor? Maybe explain that process a little bit. The protection of the IP address of the wallet
So I'll
user.
be careful right now because what we've been doing for the past 3 months, and I guess it's actually 4 now, is rewiring and undoing a lot of the things that were done differently than we wanted. While we're confident that we're definitely not storing and keeping IP addresses, while we're confident that we're definitely not taking mass data on the users, we're still rewiring to make sure that we are routing things through Tor and making sure that users never have their IP, even in our hands whatsoever. So our end goal is exactly like you mentioned, no logging, no maintenance of IPs, and never even having the ability from the device to server that we use of being able to track users at all. So that's the end goal. We're making sure right now that everything goes there. And one of the biggest things I can say instead of just talk, because talk is cheap, is that we're headed back to open source, which is going to make a huge difference with our community now and the community members we once had and the users that used Coinomi for what it did above all other wallets. By heading back to open source, we think that's a really sure-found way to let people know exactly how we handle their data, even if they're a novice or even if they're an expert, just a handshake agreement between users that we're doing the right thing every time.
yeah, I mean, like, I actually just signed the NDA that was sent to me, and I was like, you guys mentioned you open source. I remember there were certain reasons that you went, I guess, closed source. So I guess, like, is there a reason why it's still closed source for now, and then you're gonna open it later?
Yeah, two reasons. First, I'll stand by some of the initial rationale we had back in what was probably 2016 or 17 for going closed source. I had really just joined the team after that decision, but even if I were there a week or a year or two before, it probably wouldn't have been mine to make. We were getting not dozens, but even hundreds sometimes of reports and tickets to our free support from people who had downloaded a fully cloned app that Google or even Apple had, oh no, I think it was only Google back then. Google had let through publication that would quickly drain their funds. And the developer of that app, of that scammer or that malicious hacker putting that together, would even use our own support email for the fake app of their name. So we'd be getting emails that we lost user funds with a cloned application that did everything our app did, except the small part of sucking their funds out the back door after a day or two. We saw that dozens a day, and again, even 100 once or twice, of people were being turned off to crypto and losing hundreds or thousands of dollars, which you can imagine now could have been close to the 10,000s. And I assure you, I can find a support ticket that has hundreds of Bitcoin in it being drained by different wallets that were taking advantage of our core infrastructure just because we were ahead of the game, just because we were the first in field to really help users keep all these new coins together, and we were open source. We didn't know how to best deal with that then back in the day, and now we've seen a lot of solutions come out that really have helped other wallet providers like Trust Wallet with their Trust Core library, or partially open source wallets as well. So that's some of the rationale. We initially were closed, but it's quite simple why we're going open again. It's about reestablishing that community, and it's also about giving developers a tool set that help develop into our wallet, and even get developers started. Since we're not really afraid of other people saying, "Let me come in and make a wallet." More competition is better. Our deal is always with users and with blockchains that we work with. We say we're not going to make you pay us. We're not going to make you run around and tell people that we're the best wallet. We're going to develop the best wallet solution for you and your users. If we do, you're going to send all your users to us, full stop. If we don't, we failed at our job. So, that promise and going open source, that's what makes sense today. And I just wish we could do it faster, but there's a lot of auditing, there's a lot of spaghetti code cleanup on some front end things, nothing with the serious core that we want to get right before we go open source. So we're targeting that for 2026. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves and say 25, but there can always be pleasant surprises in getting back there sooner. And the work that we do together with PIVX and FIRO, we'll be able to open source that at the end of the day too, and that's exciting.
Oh, that's
Um,
great news. Yeah, go
I,
ahead.
I do actually even
no,
want to mention, just so the community knows, there should be some kind of provision that we have in there as well. That anything you guys are helping us with, that should be reused and open to the community, since it's always our priority to help get those tools out, and never our rationale to try to keep something to ourselves if it's going to help grow our coin partners community. As much as I'd love every PivX user to come into Coinomi, I'd much rather be happy having 80% of them and onboarding another 20% and seeing the market cap go up 10x because of the tools we're able to help provide with the development you're contributing to us and we're contributing to you. So that's how we see it, as a better deal for every PivX user, every PivX wallet.
so I actually have two questions, but I think they're going to be interlinked. My questions are, so what's your business model? And, you speak of these multi-tools. What are they? What have you guys got planned?
Sure. So when
Also,
it
before
comes,
we go any further, I just want to say that Coinomi is not paying us anything to host this space. Just to tell you, this is not a sponsored space. We invite guests on, and especially Coinomi supports a bunch of our coins. So just to clarify, we aren't getting anything for talking about this. So we're pretty free to say what we want.
In return, we
now on
get
the
to
other
ask
hand,
hard questions.
yeah, now on the other hand, I'll be charging, I guess, 200 to 300 for my typical speaking fee. I'm just kidding. So you asked about our revenue model, and it's not too different from other wallets. So I'll be frank, we take a small percentage fee every time you make a swap inside of Coinomi, or when you use one of the more than 20 integrated fiat on ramp, off ramps that help you buy crypto. You can buy anything from Bitcoin to Ethereum, all the way down to Dogecoin, Redcoin, I think still, or maybe that's a little bit late to get into that one. Again, 2014 OGs might recall. So we take little fees there, and we're transparent about how much those are compared to other platforms. Additionally, when you use Coinomi, often we keep our fees competitive with other wallets and even the platforms themselves. Like if you went to the website for one of these exchanges, you might be paying a lower fee in Coinomi since we don't put a huge fee on there. And we also are able to negotiate a bit lower fees at volume for our users using the app directly. So keep swapping inside your wallet. We also appreciate that, of course, you're supporting our mission, which is clearly stated online, of extending this financial accessibility around the world. You ask about multi-tools, and I'll give you two of the ways that we're quickly turning Coinomi much more into a versatile multi-tool rather than just a wallet. The first is really exciting that right now we're building a wallet that's easy to use for everyone, but we're not forgetting to build in some of the expert features that we know experts want to use in Coinomi and that novices will eventually start to need. So there's three steps. First, make it easy. Second, add into the settings all those hard, difficult options that users might want to use for the 1 to 2% of people taking advantage of them. Third, use things like AI and better UI UX. Don't worry, not just the buzzword of an LLM, but use better AI and LLMs to be able to help usher users into a UX UI streamlined product. What did all those buzzwords mean? All it means is that when you're setting up your wallet and when you're using it, we're highlighting the expert features and the more complex tools that you might get used to or start to use as you get into your crypto journey. You might start today as a sell, store, receive buyer of crypto, just putting Bitcoin from your Gemini account into your own safe wallet that you control. In a few weeks, we might be able to help you do liquid DeFi staking and more by using good AI, by using good education into the app that's built with really nice UI UX. So that's one of the ways that we're designing the product itself around crypto. And one of the ways that we're designing crypto around the product is staying ahead of the trends and implementing is always the best of those trends into the app. We're trying to make a wallet here that's going to feel like a single asset wallet, that if you're a PivX user, it feels like a PivX wallet, though you're able to access all the other coins and ecosystems just the same. That means seamless integration of bridging, seamless integration of staking, and more. That's also why we collaborate every single day with members of the team who've been with us for years and years, such as one of our listeners here, Brenny, who's actually been with us since around 2016 or 17. Just starting in live chat support and helping customers every day, Brenny has seen it all. Brenny is one of the members and who now runs all of our product ownership that we depend on the most, since he's dealt with every single customer with every single complaint. And now he's one of the best people to help us integrate new technologies into Coinomi before we even have a customer testing them. So I really think that's what makes us different in a brand that's been around for 10 years. And more specifically, I'm proud and excited that we've stepped away, some of us for a year, some of us for a month, some of us, though, for 3, 4, 5 years before returning to the product. The experience that our team built at different companies, the experience that our team built at different teams, leading or following great leaders around the world, and I mean that literally, is invaluable. And it's going to let us build a really accelerated product now. So the changes you've seen are incremental over the past few months. They're about to speed up as we rev up the engine. And that's exactly why we're here today, not getting paid, to talk about what we're going to be doing with PivX and all of our partners. So we really are excited.
Cool.
So
So
I have a follow-up. Oh, go ahead, Ruben.
no, go ahead.
So I have a follow-up question. It's relates to the open source. So you mentioned, I mean, I'm not this is Yenichar from PivX. I'm not an open source maxi in general for all software, but I do think that for cryptocurrency related activities, it's very, very important. And the reason is cryptocurrency tends to exist outside traditional structures. I mean, it's global. It's not just in one legal domain. You can't always count on like going to the judicial system to resolve problems. And having something be open source, it protects users. They can see what they're running. It takes a little work, but there's a path there to see it. And it also allows developers to resist temptations of putting things into code that they would be ashamed of if it was open source. So I'm really glad you're transitioning over to open source. That's great. I really like that. However, you mentioned when you were describing it a few caveats. You mentioned Trust Wallet does something to protect this cloning problem, which indeed is like a heartbreaking problem when people get fake wallets out there. It needs to be addressed. But you mentioned Trust Wallet has a way, and you mentioned that some people do like hybrid things. I mean, what is are you envisioning something like that? And what is it that you might do that pulls back in any way from pure open source?
Yeah. My solution to that, and I guess my first answer is that not only did open source show people what's going on, it's more important for crypto. But something that's really changed, for example, is even the Apple and Google review process. You just can't get some of these fake cloned apps through anymore with copy and pasted code bases from open source apps. We've seen that from a lot of regulation of that and our own contact with Google and their Google Play
That's
teams.
good.
Yeah, so that's something
Yeah,
really good that
Google
we've
was a
seen speed up
problem.
overall.
Google was definitely a problem there.
Huge problem. So that's really big. That's going to help us a lot. And the second thing is that we're starting with audits that are going to be public facing that people know about. Actually, I was going to say that besides even just transparency, open source also kind of forces you to think outside the box and to make sure your coding solutions are elegant, that your security solutions are tight, and just make the most sense or are up to date. It inspires trust
Good
when your
point.
users 99% of them hear from the 1% of the code auditors out there, hey, Coinomi's doing something really cool in their code base that takes advantage of an encryption methods that have been around for 100 years, or I guess let's say about 70, 80. But they're also doing it in a new way that's super innovative and even more safe. So we want to make sure that we're outspoken by developers who are looking under the hood, and that's going to speak to volume for consumer trust with us, right? But to get back to your question, it starts with our own internal reviews, then audits, and then we might target a hybrid solution where the core of the wallet is both verifiable in the published app as open source, and it's actually one-to-one with the open source code online. That's similar to what Trust does, that they have their core code online, but not all of their code that you can copy and paste. But I really do imagine and envision that in this universe where what we hear from every tech CEO, and I won't be one of them to say this, but I think the joke is that 2025, 50% of code is written by AI, 2026, 100% of code is written by AI, and 2027, 10% of code is written by professionals, and the 90% is quasi-professionals trying to fix all the crappy code that AI made. So we think that actually our app is going to be pretty well equipped to stand the test of time just because we put so many man hours in it. And against other apps and developer processes that are going to be using AI purely, we think that this will actually stand pretty strong by itself.
Okay. Thanks. I hope that you find a path where it's all open source. That would be my hope.
Absolutely. I think that's the best way to go.
Thanks.
So we've reached about, I guess, the halfway point, and we actually have a supposed topic that we're supposed to discuss. And I guess, of course, Konami is welcome to always chime in. We're interested in everyone's views here. But I think the two topics that has been happening over the past few weeks, I would say weeks or maybe months, is I guess the stuff that's happening with Tornado Cash and also the SEC actions, right? So just to kind of give some context, like recently, the SEC, especially under this new Trump administration, has been, I guess, well, as I understand it, the Securities Commission is supposed to be independent, but with the new kind of administration in place, we have seen a lot of shift in the enforcement approach. I think that's a lot to do with Commissioner Hester Pierce, because I think last time under Gary, there was a lot of instead of clear regulatory guidelines, they were like relying on enforcement. They just enforce even though they were like wasn't proper guidance.
Enforce anything they
And there's
want on their
Yeah.
personal whim, right?
Oh, pardon, guys.
felt like a
Yeah.
no, sorry, go
Yep,
ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, it felt kind of like a witch hunt, and we've seen a couple of dismissals of pretty high profile cases like Coinbase, Kraken, even Ripple. There was like some settlement, and we're also seeing stuff like I think it was BitMEX that was pardoned, which was also quite surprising for me. And on the other hand, Tornado Cash, there was a ruling. So in 2022, actually, the OFAC, which is the U.S. Department of Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, actually sanctioned Tornado Cash because it said that it laundered $7 billion in virtual currency, including funds stolen by North Korea. And recently, in November 2024, the Court of Appeals actually ruled that Tornado Cash smart contracts cannot actually be sanctioned, not because that they are pro-privacy or anything. It's just that it does not qualify as property under the law. So it's more of like a technicality and I guess the definition of the powers of OFAC. And now, with the delisting of the Tornado Cash from the OFAC list, a lot of people are saying like, oh, it's a great win for privacy, and without actually kind of realizing that, well, the developers are actually still in trouble. They still have an ongoing case against them for facilitating money laundering, and it'll be interesting to see where this all goes. I guess maybe let's start with Cap on what's your view on like all this SEC and Tornado Cash stuff.
Yeah, I hate to see crypto get politicized, so I'm excited that we kind of took a drawdown from the last cycle of presidential nominations and all those things. Opinion on Tornado Cash? I mean, first let me say Coinomi is a global country that, while it has its headquarters in Switzerland, we're quite global in different entities that we operate from, and we'll always be looking to make sure we're in the best place to make the most secure application for our users that complies with the most global legislation and does not impede on their ability to use such protocols, whatever the government of the US right now may say. We don't have an outward stance specifically on some of these tools, besides the fact that our users can use them freely without interruption from Coinomi, just the same as any other protocol they use with Wallet Connect or logging on through our DApp browser and app. And so we're really we're quite neutral in, again, just promoting the idea that you can use anything from Coinomi. We view ourselves the same way that you might view Chrome browser. We simply make it easier to explore and browse. And with that, I think that Tornado Cash definitely has its negative things that it forces on society, but more so, I think it has its positive ways of making government and society confront the tools of the power of technology when it's not a nuclear bomb that that governments control, but rather something that the people might have a chance at regulating and looking at open source. So I hope that doesn't walk around your question, since I myself may have used this service in the past. But that's kind of where we lie, that we don't even need to have a stance too much so, because we just help users access what they need to access, regardless of what that end tech is.
Yeah. I mean, this is like more of an open discussion. Doesn't have to be
Yeah,
like,
for
oh,
sure.
about Coinomi. Yeah,
For
yeah.
sure, for sure.
I like your
So yeah.
position, though. That's a good position by Coinomi. Thank you.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
Dr.
Happy to
Cap,
go
do you
deeper.
have any Dr. Cap, do you have
Yeah,
any thoughts? Yeah.
I mean, look, I think it's a great thing that if you look at what the SEC enforcement actions were for, in some of the cases there were kind of like there are lots of SEC enforcement actions that occurred until the sort of last 12 months or last 6 months. And then if you kind of look at what a lot of them were for, well, actually, some of them were fairly legitimate. And then some of them, the grounds were a lot less clear. Frankly, I'm glad that a lot of these actions are being settled. I think it gives breathing room for developers and entrepreneurs in the US. I think it gives them the opportunity to go, okay, we can innovate, we can develop our products, we can kind of we can sell our services and provide things that hopefully people want. On the flip side, it would be nice to see just a clearer framework to begin with relation to these assets, and that is starting to emerge. But I just feel, I just feel like, well, what happens in 4 years' time when we get if we get a different administration? Who knows what happens, So this is breathing room for a short period of time, and I really don't know what happens next. For the rest of the world, I mean, this is intertwined into U.S. geopolitics, and the U.S. is pursuing what I perceive to be a path of isolationism and self-sufficiency. And fair enough, ideologically, I actually get that, and I can understand that. I'm not necessarily convinced the way they're going about it right now is the optimal way for them to do it, but I think a consequence of that is that if you're going to pursue a path which many may perceive as cutting people out or aggressively, I might add, then those people will learn to work without you. So in some ways, it is really nice that there is a bit of breathing room, especially within the US. But as time passes, I'm not sure that's necessarily going to be as relevant as I hope. One thing I do think in mind is, when we're kind of talking in the background in the setup to this, we're talking about things like World Liberty Fi. There are now, World Liberty Fi is Eric Trump. He's an advisor attached to a DeFi project, and they've amassed, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of crypto assets on their platform. So there are very clear financial incentives right now for the US government to have a very light regulatory touch. And again, this is intertwining politics with economics. I'll be honest with you, I really am not sure what to make of it.
Yeah, I mean, It can be worrisome to us, even though it does have outcomes we really like. We just don't like seeing it get politicized where it might go back and forth every 4 years. I will say, though, my personal opinion, speaking as Kobe here, my personal opinion since before the 2024 elections and even before then is just if you look at the donations of all these crypto companies that are now legally LLCs or C Corps operating out of Delaware in the US, and I know because I own one, if you look at them all around, they're donating so much money to these politicians who are not presidents, who are not senators, who are House reps, who are they have enough lobbyists now for every single House rep by a matter of two, I think, or maybe even three. So the institutional money is just there. It's there to get this through legislation, no matter who the president is, and that gives me some confidence. Of course, we'll see some of the more erratic policies going back and forth, and I hope they don't get turned fully into political issues. But I think we're actually seeing a decent thing. That there's enough money behind these technologies that they're getting validated and pushed through by the institutions no matter what the president or his team says.
Do you think we've gone too far? Like, I'm a bit like, for example, the Hawk Tuaga. I don't know if you remember.
Oh,
She
I
launched
think those are actually smaller. The Haktua girl is smaller of an issue than ICOs were back in 2017 or NFTs were with their laundering in the past 5 years. Just as an example, hopefully when people bought Haktua Girl's coin and when people bought these meme coins, they at least knew there was I might risk and lose all this money or I might make $100 million, right? There was at least an idea of I'm kind of making a huge gamble here. When people bought ICOs back in 2016, 17, a lot of them were promised that these companies were going to completely redefine web security or some very rational ideas that sounded really good about putting electricity on the grid. There were probably dozens of projects and only a few actually were real or came out true, like Power Ledger, one of our early partners. People are actually, I think, much more retail aware. And I think it's getting better. That's difficult every wave we enter and add more and more consumers into the lot. But just compare it again to that of those ICO days where people were just losing money, not thinking that they were making 100 out of one gamble or 1 out of 100 gamble. Now consumers are a little bit more aware, and at least we're being more frank with those opportunities, which are still ushering a lot of people into crypto. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I am
Yeah,
really
no.
not sure whether this is an improvement. I mean, okay, go ahead, Dr. Cat. Yeah.
Well, no. I said you're not really sure it's an improvement. I'm going to kind of say, I've been around since 2016. When I was saying, the SEC, they had done lots of enforcement. There was an ICO project that I invested into, which did come under it, which had been pitched in publications in the manner of being a legitimate investment. And then they basically turned around on everything they said they were going to do. The SEC did come after them, and then did enforce, and that company was forced to kind of pay back out to the ICO, the people who'd funded into the ICO. I think my own take on this is my experience. My experience of crypto has been good in the sense that because it's been a free for all and because it's been a deregulated environment. And this is actually my argument for why in some ways I'm relieved that there is, the enforcement culture has changed and that companies have a bit more breathing ground is that actually my experience of crypto has been like, it's been like seeing 100 years of the S&P 500 play out in 8. You are seeing an emerging immature market maturing, and that's literally within the space of 10-15 years. And in that sort of time, again, going back to the ICOs, they were all being pitched as investments, whereas at least with this generation of meme coins, you kind of, you go to the website. I hate saying this, but I think you have to be pretty stupid to think that these meme coins are legitimate investments. To me, I look at half of these things like Fartcoin and Dog with Hat and go, they're not. They're just casino. Yeah. So that said, don't get me wrong. I know people who have been tricked by the modern day crypto scams as well. But the point is, it's like, okay, well, at least the narrative for the pump and dumps has changed from ICOs to meme coins, and at least there's like a greater, I guess there's a greater awareness. And I also feel it reflects almost, I don't know, to me it reflects a greater sense of desperation that meme coins are so attractive, because there are a lot of people who've been doing a lot harder, have been struggling a lot more in the last 2 years. If you look at things like the cost of living, if you look at various inflationary crises, and if you look at sort of spiraling wealth inequality and the impacts of that on the broader economy, how that affects the average person, how that affects the average person's perception of social mobility. I think a lot of in some ways, I feel glad that we're almost saying these are meme coins that are, definitely going to pump and dump. Like, I think you don't need to. I hope, that's just an average IQ thing. So I do think there's in some ways the fact that it isn't so regulated, to me, is a good thing. But I appreciate that there are going to be losers on the other side. There are going to be people who lose out on the other side of that equation. And there are going to be people who are entering into good faith thinking, oh, wow, what's this celebrity is saying this coin's going to be amazing. And no, it's not. It's just them being an asshole.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
dividing line is lying, right? I mean, that's the definition of fraud. If you lie to make money, so it's an important distinction. Just because somebody loses money doesn't mean it was necessarily bad. It may have even been a good bet. It's who are we to judge? But the dividing line should be: is somebody coming out with a false narrative that's clearly false and intentionally false to make money? And I think it'd be nice to bring back ICOs with, under those constraints, which still exist, right? Pretty much all legal systems have laws against fraud. That's where, in my opinion, the line should be.
I think that line can get super blurry, but I agree that that's where we have to draw it. That you have to have a lot of idea of original intent of whoever launched a token or asset. But our legal systems and legal systems around the world have to become agile and able to deal with these things.
I just want to add, the accredited investor laws, have $1 million worth of assets that you're managing to get involved in securities. You don't have that in crypto, and I think that's been an incredibly democratizing force because,
Yes, yes, it has.
For myself, when I got involved in 2016, I barely knew anything about financial markets and how they work. After spending, as much time in crypto as I have a very profound and nuanced understanding of exactly how, not just crypto markets work, but broader financial markets work. So to me, it's not just democratized the access to investing, but it's actually democratized the access to self-education in how these markets work. And for those who are a bit more, who are like, how does this work? What's happening? To have that kind of, to be able to invest yourself personally into that space and then to take yourself further in terms of obtaining knowledge in that space, it's an incredibly democratizing force. And I think that's kind of filtering out now into the broader public, who I feel are starting to get a better understanding of how the economy works on the whole. And I think that's a good thing.
We agree.
Oh, what about the tornado cash thing, right? Like, I feel that people are, I guess, celebrating too early. A lot of people just think like, oh, because of tornado cash, I'm involved in several privacy projects, and some of them like, oh, because of the tornado cash ruling, now we don't have to worry about KYC. We can do all this stuff, and now that BitMEX has been pardoned for money laundering, I think we're, first of all, like the tornado cash, like if you take a look what was actually ruled, it was not to say that, oh, we're upholding privacy and therefore tornado cash is not liable. It was more, again, a technicality to say OFAC cannot sanction smart contracts. It has to be over an entity, a known individual, proper property that you are enforcing, while a smart contract that exists on some blockchain with no admin keys doesn't qualify as property. And that's very different than, let's say, saying that, oh, are the developers responsible if someone uses your protocol or that you develop and you got some sort of benefit from it? maybe even indirectly, like for example, the Zcash, right? If there's a dev tax and somehow someone uses it to launder, are the Zcash developers responsible? We don't know, but I'm just like curious to hear everyone's thoughts on this. Yeah.
Well, I think people are hopeful, Ruben, that this is a first step towards that, right? I mean, I almost feel like we're waiting for who is it, the two Romans, right, who were involved in Tornado Cash. They're still in legal jeopardy. We're hoping for some kind of relief. And now you're exactly right to wonder, will it come? But I think people see it as a step. I mean, these things are kind of trickling out, right? I mean, one after another. Not every case was dropped on the first day of the new administration, but it feels like there's a change afoot, and the hope is that they'll eventually come around to deciding that developing this code isn't a crime.
You think I'm not getting political, but do you think a Trump administration would say like, yeah, we're totally okay with protocols being used by North Korea to launder funds? It's just like I'm saying, like there are limits, even though they may be pro crypto, when it comes to stuff like this, to identify like enemies of state, right? And I'm not saying that is the right thing to do, but I just feel that I'm not too hopeful there because that kind of enables other like foreign actors, right? So yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
they're unlikely to come out with that. You're right. They're just going to be anti, like North Korean, and was it the Lazarus Group? Isn't that the North Korean group that's doing this? They're going to stay anti that. But I think there's a political like force here in that Trump, the crypto community in the U.S. became part of his base. I mean, like it or not, that's just the reality. And he has people that he's listening to and that are influencing the administration that come from that base. And that base, sure there were voters, but there was also a lot of money that came from crypto, right? So that's a real political force, and it would be that political reality that drove it. I think, and that is still playing out exactly how significant that force is.
Absolutely. And we're just going to have to watch that over the next, I mean, we still have 3.5 years, so buckle in.
ooh, oh, so I guess I mean we've talked about most of the stuff. Is there anything else that you want to cover, or maybe in a couple of minutes we can open it to questions from the listeners? Yep.
Yeah, I
I
would love
just
to hear if
wanted
there's any questions.
I'd love to take questions, but just one thing I wanted to say on the back of all this. I think governments are always going to represent their best interests, or the best interests of their stakeholders. And, to me, I increasingly feel like, look, I'll be upfront. I think the stakeholders will be the wealthiest people who are contributing to them, or contributing to their funds or to their own interests and successes. So ultimately, governments will represent the interests of the wealthiest. And whatever, the enemies of the wealthiest represented by a particular government will be persecuted, and the friends will be supported. So I think I feel, and I speak of this as a UK citizen who is very much observing a government that was quote unquote democratically elected, and to quote unquote serve the interests of the British public, or at least on the face of it. But if you look at their actions, to me, certainly it looks like they are certainly representing the interests of stakeholders who are wealth holders, and you see that in their actions from my perspective. So my own take on this is, from a legal point of view, just look at whose interests are aligned with what, and you'll see what's going to happen. Sounds a bit amoral, but it is what it is from my point of view.
Ooh, okay. I think this is a good time to open questions to the floor. I guess like anyone who wants to be made that has like has questions, wants to speak, you can raise your hands, and then we will make you a speaker. Otherwise, we'll try to monitor whatever comments you're posting under this spaces. So yeah, does anyone have any questions or anything that you want to say, basically? Yeah. Oh, looks like crickets. Right, cool. Well, anyway,
Well,
for
Ruben,
yeah, go
Ruben,
ahead,
why don't
Pivot.
you give us some of, you've been asking great questions. Why don't you give us your take on some of the questions that we had earlier? Like, what's your take on stable coins and privacy for stable coins and these changes, political changes?
Hmm. I mean, I'm, I think as I'm just generally very distrusting of governments and authority. I'm not an anarchist in any sense. I do see governments as playing a role, but at the same time, I'm like, I feel that yeah, it doesn't feel like the current like shift in crypto landscape is one that is directed by values. It seems to be directed by money. Like the people who funded the administration into power. The promises that were made. So whenever that happens, that it can also go the other way, right? Whatever makes the most business sense. And when you have, I guess, policy that's kind of like guided by money, and especially as a privacy coin, these large entities, they may be pro crypto, but very few of them are pro privacy. They are there for their bags, they are their investments. Privacy has generally been more of like a community champion thing. There has been very, very few institutions that talk about privacy. It's something they're like, oh, it's a bit like taboo, right? So I guess, like, on the one hand, I do appreciate the shift in regulatory climate. I do feel that we have some good people that are coming, like, Hester Pierce. I know she's a very generally I would say I agree with her views on crypto, and that the fact that she's now a big part of the SEC is a good thing. But at the same time, I'm a bit cautious, and I'm also finding it so kind of ridiculous that so-called independent entity can be shifted so much just by a change in administration, which kind of goes to show that it's a bit of a facade. But again, I am, I guess, cautiously hopeful, but at the same time not going to be making decisions as if this thing is totally solved. So yeah.
Good take.
Yeah, we totally agree. Oh, yeah, we totally agree, and it's quite telling to see institutions shift left and right, even though they're so-called unattached. I'll save my own political views that this should be an investment in strong institutions, but we'll definitely see how that plays out and how the American public, for the first time, reacts to the consequences of exactly that, of a institution that once was a bit more independent, going back to be a bit more controlled by the state. You may say a little bit Orwellian verbiage slipping into my space today on a Saturday for some late reading last night. I remind myself of just what happens when the powerful become too powerful. But I'm confident in the general public. We're not too Hamiltonian here at Coinomi. We believe that people have the right to govern themselves and the right to make informed decisions. And with the internet and other decentralized technologies, that path to enlightenment has never been more available. So that's what we're really excited for.
Cool. Sige, I still don't know how to pronounce your name after all this. Then requested to be a speaker. I know he's from the Pivax community. Do you have something to say? Yeah. Oh, you muted your mic. You were unmuted just now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I just posted under the space, but disregard that. There's been a lot of insecurity in the market due to political issues and laws, and no one really knew how, how privacy would be handled in the future by governments. So and now that this there's a little less non-clarity in the market now, should we all become a little more sassy and powerful in our marketing and really push a little more towards how important privacy is, and not be too shy anymore as we have been in the past?
Here at
Well,
Coinomi, we
go
haven't
ahead.
really changed our opinion in that our marketing should be kind of severed, or our client communication be severed into marketing with users we have inside the wallet and marketing outside of Coinomi on social media and more. So we still take that dual approach of having a fun and friendly voice to get you in the app, and a more secure and less curious tone once you're there. So we won't really be changing our approach, since we've been kind of steady for the past few years in our messaging.
Thanks.
I think it's probably good for each individual and group like PIVX to be cautious, but I think the trend, like what's happened, hasn't been fully absorbed. It's kind of breathtaking, the changes. You know, crypto community was actually getting persecuted under the earlier administration, and we've seen relief. And I feel like over the coming years, we're going to see, just like you said, people being bolder and new things coming out with time.
I don't know. I mean, like when I'm taking a look,
Thanks.
at least from the MICA standpoint, from the Europe standpoint, it seems they are still going hard on privacy. You take a
It's
look
true.
at,
It's true.
yeah.
Good point.
So, we can look at the US, and honestly, I feel like the US, it's still unanswered. That there's only been one thing that's for privacy, which is the Tornado Cash one. We still, besides the Roman, besides the Tornado Cash case, there's still the Samurai Wallet case. All these are still unanswered. So I think it's a bit early. But at the same time, I don't think we at least from our point of view, I don't think we've ever been scared of promoting privacy. I think they never should be something wrong about promoting privacy. I guess what I would say that is not promoting privacy, even if there was a very open environment, is that we should not be saying like, oh yes, like some from the very maxi crowd would say, yeah, oh, our privacy works, that's why criminals use us, and we should be celebrating that, right? And I think that's, while I understand that's the case, like in the sense that it's one of the indicators of a working tool when criminals use your product, right? And that could be with Tor, that could be encryption technologies, that could be a Graphene OS phone, or like Monero, or any sort of privacy coin, right? But that should never be the narrative to say that, oh yeah, we should encourage illicit usage to show how strong and resistant we are. That actually really sets the narrative backwards, because most people don't think like that. Most people are law-abiding citizens. They don't want to be associated with illicit activity. And yes, of course, it's a balance, right? Not sometimes normal activity can suddenly turn illicit. But what I'm saying is that is, when we're saying like, oh yes, great, all this ransomware, people are using our privacy coin, this is a great thing. I don't think we should ever go down that path. We should be talking about day-to-day users who need privacy, regular use cases of privacy, and why it's important, check and balance, but never go down the path of actually celebrating criminal illicit usage of a privacy product. Yeah.
Right. Agreed.
Thank you for all your answers.
Okay, we have two other people. Oops, Coinomi is requesting to speak. Interesting. I think must have dropped off. And Eric Stanek, which I believe is also from the PVX community as well. I think this will probably be the last question. So yeah, Eric, go ahead. Is Eric still here? I made him as the. Yes. Yep.
It's not really a question, more of a statement. And sorry, I've missed the Coinomi representative's name. Is it Kobe?
Yes, Kobe.
Okay, Kobe. I just wanted to say that back in 2016 or so, I think that's when I first started using the Coinomi wallet. And then, of course, Coinomi had its issues. And I'll be honest, I lost all.
Oops, did something happen?
Hello?
He said he probably was saying lost all trust, and then he got censored.
When did you lose me? I guess the screensaver kicked on too quick.
Definitely not paid. Not paid.
Anyway, all my trust has been regained with Coinomi based on this conversation. Kobe, you did an excellent job, and I'm very, very impressed. So I'm looking forward to super tight integration with PIVX.
Ooh.
Yeah, here. Thanks, Eric.
I actually just want to add to that. Listening to Coinomi today, I'm quite intrigued from an integrations point of view, from a multi-tool point of view. So, Kobe, I've sent you a DM if you're interested in any kind of integrations and partnerships. Definitely open to having a more private discussion. So just check your DMs, and we could hopefully set up a meeting sometime. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. We just got able to speak again here back in the space, and I think Eric, you were talking, and I just want to thank you for your new confidence. And I want to add that we're going to ask nothing of our old users, new users, returning users. We're going to add nothing in terms of what we want from them in trust via our words or via a marketing campaign. Or even what I say right now and promise to here. We're going to do it through our actions. We're going to do it through the code we push, the code you can review, and the things we're able to work on and implement with our great partners like PIVX, FIRO, and so many more that we start to bring into the family again. So we appreciate it, and we want to back all of our words up and your confidence with action. So we look forward to doing that and seeing you as a proud Coinomi user very soon again.
Awesome. Really good to hear.
Great. We're just about on the hour. So yeah, I think this is a good time to end the space. Thanks everyone for making this possible. And I also want to give a special shout out to Leah, who has been organizing and getting all of us this organized folk together. I don't know if I should say, but I will say it. Happy birthday! So thank you to everyone who came. We really appreciate your attendance, and this will be available on our YouTube in a couple of days to anyone who has missed it. So have a great Saturday and weekend, everyone. And it was a real pleasure having you all.
Thank you so much for
Thanks.
having us.
Thanks,
We're
guys.
so excited to speak again soon. And everyone can always give us a follow at Coinomi Wallet on this account, or at Kobe Lazar to stay in touch on a day-to-day basis with the new updates we're doing or some Ghibli photos of the team. And so we'll see you again soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Kobe. Thanks for your focus on privacy.